Everything else in this arc has been about survival, finding food, securing shelter, keeping the group safe. This object is different. Somebody, 40,000 years ago, spent real time and real skill making something whose only job was to sound good. We are looking at a hand-carved bone flute. It is roughly 40 millennia old, highly engineered, and when played, it still produces clean, recognizable musical notes. Creating an airtight precision instrument is a difficult engineering problem. Doing it using only primitive stone tools requires intense, practiced focus. If humans were already manufacturing complex flutes out of bone and ivory 40,000 years ago, it means they already understood how to make music sound good. The very first rhythmic chant or hum must reach back much further, into a past that left nothing solid behind. If the idea of an ancient song gives you a little chill, this whole arc is built for you. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the rest. This single object forces a revision of how we view the Upper Paleolithic. These populations dedicated immense labor to an object that provided no calories and no defense, prioritizing an inherent need for aesthetic feeling and beauty. In 2008, archaeologists working in the limestone caves of the Swabian Jura in southern Germany uncovered a series of remarkable artifacts. The most intact was found in a cave called Hohle Fels. It is a flute carved from the hollow wing bone of a griffin vulture. It features a carefully cut V-shaped mouthpiece and 5 precise finger holes. The exactness of the cuts proves this was a work of practiced skill, not a prototype. In the exact same cave system, researchers found fragments of an even more complex instrument, a flute carved from mammoth ivory. Unlike bird bone, ivory has no naturally hollow center, presenting a severe engineering hurdle. This cross-section diagram of a solid mammoth tusk illustrates the problem. To make an ivory flute, the carver first had to split the tusk perfectly along its naturally curved grain. Once split, they faced the slow, painstaking process of hollowing out the solid interior of both separate halves. Finally, they carved the finger holes into each half and fit the two pieces back together with a seal tight enough to hold air pressure. Without that seal, the instrument would produce no sound. This entire multi-step manufacturing process was executed by hand tens of thousands of years before metal tools existed, using prehistoric flint blades like these. An object this demanding to make is a sign of high technical maturity. By the Upper Paleolithic period, instrument manufacturing was an established, culturally sophisticated practice. These flutes were not isolated anomalies sitting alone in the dirt. They were found in the exact same archaeological layers as some of the earliest confirmed figurative art on Earth, including a carved female figure known as the Venus of Hohle Fels and the Lion Man, an ivory figurine depicting a human body with a feline head. Sculpture, symbolic imagination, and music arrived in the archaeological record together. They appear as a single creative explosion from the exact same population, rather than separate, sequentially developed ideas. Nicholas Kennard, the researcher who led much of the excavation at Hohle Fels, proposed that this explosion of art had a practical, evolutionary utility. This map plots how early modern humans expanded into Europe during this period. The logistical challenge they faced was immense, maintaining cooperation across small, dispersed, highly isolated groups. Shared rhythm, song, and ritual provided a bonding technology. A shared musical culture allowed individuals to recognize belonging and coordinate with wider networks, bridging these isolated communities without requiring direct daily interaction. In this framework, music and art functioned as structural tools. They allowed early human societies to scale their social networks, bond tightly, and ultimately outcompete the populations around them. But any discussion of outcompeting neighboring populations brings up a massive chronological wildcard. In 1995, archaeologist Ivan Turk excavated a Slovenian cave called Divje Babe. In a layer of dirt associated with Neanderthal occupation, he found this object, the femur of a young cave bear, pierced with a neat row of circular holes. The historical stakes of this single bone are enormous. It is dated to roughly 50 to 60,000 years ago. If it is a genuine instrument, it means Neanderthals invented music long before modern humans ever set foot in the region. It is widely displayed as the Neanderthal flute, But a major counter-theory published by researcher Kajus Diedrich in 2015 argues against deliberate toolwork. Diedrich proposed an alternative explanation. The holes perfectly match the tooth puncture patterns of scavenging Ice Age hyenas chewing on the soft bones of bear cubs. This schematic overlays the jaw of a prehistoric hyena onto the artifact, demonstrating the exact mechanical alignment between the carnivore's teeth and the spacing of the bone punctures. Turk's original team and subsequent CT scan studies have pushed back, maintaining that the shape of the perforations shows intentional design rather than animal damage. The debate remains unresolved. While most specialists today heavily favor the hyena explanation, the discussion has never entirely closed. It makes you wonder what an instrument that old would even play. Drop a comment below. What do you think the very first piece of music ever played actually sounded like? This debate illustrates the deep fragility of the archaeological record. The entire timeline for the origin of an art form hinges on how we interpret the ambiguity of holes in ancient bones. That fragility points to the deepest limitation in this field. Instruments are only the most durable evidence of music. They are not its origin. The human voice raised in song, palms clapped together, or feet stamped in the dirt leave zero physical trace for an archaeologist to excavate. The Hohle Fels flute is not necessarily close to the beginning of music. It is simply the oldest moment where music grafted onto a material solid enough to survive the millennia. And we know exactly how old those surviving objects are without having to destroy the precious artifacts in a lab. Looking at this vertical cross-section of the cave stratigraphy, researchers date the flutes by radiocarbon testing the surrounding sediment layer. Analyzing animal bones and charcoal found at the exact same depth establishes the timeline. As dating methodologies improve, that timeline continues to shift. A 2012 redating effort using high-resolution techniques pushed the confirmed age of nearby flutes to 43,000 years. And if we zoom out from these European caves, we see that ancient music is not a localized phenomenon. Archaeologists have excavated remarkably old, precisely tuned bone flutes at the Jihao site in China, dating back 9,000 years, and recently reported potential flutes in Iran dating back roughly 8,000 years. Instrument making is a fundamental human behavior that emerges independently whenever separate populations reach a specific threshold of technical and social complexity. Modern experimental archaeology has managed to take these dry, carefully dated artifacts and translate them back into their original medium, sound. Experts have built exact physical replicas of these ancient bones, carved with period-accurate stone tools, to see how they perform in human hands. The reconstructions prove that these artifacts were highly capable instruments, tuned to produce a full, recognizable musical range. Even the fiercely disputed Divje Babe bone was reconstructed by musician Ruben Dymkorovsky, who proved that regardless of how the holes were made, the shape functions as a highly capable flute in skilled hands. We will never find the fossil of a hum. The person who sang the very first song is lost to time. But we know that 40,000 years ago, humans were already investing immense technical labor into something that offered absolutely no physical protection from the cold and no help tracking a herd. They carved these bones because the sound was worth hearing. The drive to create beauty and shared feeling is a genuinely ancient, genuinely human requirement. From something built purely for feeling to something built purely for order, join us tomorrow for Day 157, the first law. This is a dose of pure wowness at the end place. We are so grateful for this incredible journey. The Ark is for you. Thank you for being here.